Reading from the Bṛhad-bhāgavatāmṛta, Book 1, Chapter 4, Text 87. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Svasṛ-dānādi-sakhyena. Samyag anukampitaḥ. Tena tasyārjunasyāpi. Priyo mad-rūpavān dhvajaḥ. Lord Krishna, by acts of friendship, like giving his sister in marriage to the Pāṇḍava Arjuna, showed Arjuna full mercy. And that Arjuna bears my image on the treasure flag of his chariot. Commentary. Lord Krishna's sister Subhadra is a direct expansion of his internal potency, and the Lord approved her marriage to Arjuna. Later in the Kṛṣṇa war, the Lord agreed to drive Arjuna's chariot. These favors distinguished Arjuna as the most dear to Krishna among the Pandavas. Therefore, Hanuman is proud to have his own image on Arjuna's battle flag. Om Agana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Taksur Unmalatam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Mano Bhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Sapadantikam Pancha Kalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhayevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shrivas Adi Gaur Bhakta-vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So, greetings from Sridham, Mayapur. Yeah, I have just the best place and the best people to stay. Jagadish and Yugala, they have such a beautiful place, and on the roof, they built a beautiful apartment. Not just for me, but they were thinking when I come. And although Puri, you become liberated by the prasadam in Mayapur by the kirtan, I almost wish it was the other way around, because every day I'm invited to lunch someplace. Gail, tomorrow I'll go to Savita Bhattacharya, and Manu's there. So every day I go to one place or have it here, and I'm not eating my age. I'm eating like I'm 15, but I walk a lot, so hopefully. And today, every night, there's a WhatsApp group, there's a kirtan someplace. Last night it was Niranjan Swami, but he had cancer, he wasn't feeling well. And today it's here. And in this complex, they have a beautiful temple room with beautiful, many Radha Krishna, many beautiful deities that are really worshipped. So I have kirtan, so I'll speak. So before I speak, I'm going to test it on you, and it'll probably wind up as a Monday morning greeting. I'll just tell you what I was thinking of speaking about. You know, I gave a seminar to the Russian Kirtan school, and maybe some of you have heard me give this seminar where I systematically explain what is meditation, why bhakti is the best meditation. I'm not going to go through that lecture now, but it's quite scientific. And why kirtan is the best process of bhakti. And then why sankirtan is the best kirtan. And I quote from Sri Jiva Goswami, who says kirtan gives gives special feelings of bliss. So I'm going to speak. So I thought, what should I speak on? So what I wanted to speak on is why Sankirtan gives special feelings of bliss, and then answer the question that many people have, where they can become meditators in kirtan, but japa, they can't seem to. And almost like if the spiritual master is expert in finding the ways and means to engage the disciple in devotional service, then why didn't Prabhupada just say, every morning do 2 hours of kirtan, you know, instead of japa? Because Sankirtanaita pitaro, ajanu lambito bujo kanikavitaro, Sankirtanaika pitaro. Lord Chaitanya is the father of kirtan, Sankirtan. And in this way, Sankirtan can mean many things, complete kirtan or pure kirtan. But here it means congregational kirtan. And I'll probably elaborate on it in a Monday morning greetings. But I'm going to go get back to the Bṛhad-bhāgavatāmṛta, but this is going to be my basic outline. First, I'm going to explain why Sankirtan is better than Kirtan. And the first principle is that, and I read this in the Chaitanya Bhagavat, shared bliss is higher than individual bliss. And I think the way this works, I'm not going to elaborate, I'm just going to give you my outline, and then I'll write something, is community has the ability to remove false ego, because group interest in a good community becomes higher than individual interest. And it's individual interest, not selfish interest, but the relationship between us and Krishna is love. And we should feel that, but we don't feel that because our soul is covered by the false ego. That's the desire for separateness and superiority. So in the principle of rasa, when people have the experience of one mind, not an impersonal thing, but a community, and I know this, anybody here is a communicator, a teacher, or does kirtan, you realize that it's more than the intellect. When you give a good class, it's more than just the intellectual input. But if you can speak in a way that everybody is hearing the same thing, it creates a type of catharsis or transcendence, because it creates a shared mind almost, in the same that you're hearing the same thing. And it just has kind of an uplifting effect. which is one of the reliefs of good drama, for example, or a concert, or things that people do community-wise. It's just closer to the soul than that separate type of feeling. Because we are a community, we're a universal community. In other words, we're connected to God. So that's one point I want to explore. And therefore, in kirtan, you can feel the energy between you and God in terms of the holy name very, very powerfully, because it has that extra psychological effect of kind of removing that sense of separateness and false ego and egocentric type consciousness. So that's just one point, that shared bliss. The other point is that one second is okay. I'm supposed to be downstairs. And the other thing is, which I want to develop, is what chanting is ultimately, and this has to be developed. You can't create the holy name. You can only attract the holy name. It's a principle of mercy that we can't earn Krishna, but we can influence Krishna to give himself to us. That's what mercy means. It's beyond your individual capability, but you can attract Krishna. You can't create Krishna. You can't. It's just chanting the holy name. With just syllables and mouth, you can't create God. But if it's done with heart, you can attract God to appear in terms of the holy name. So the other principle, it's also there in the Bhagavatam, is group petition is higher than individual petition. And another principle, and probably the main principle about Sankirtan in terms of meditation, bhakti is the best process because it's an emotional, the best yoga because it's an emotional connection is higher than an intellectual connection. So with an object of meditation. So we have a emotional connection with God, which is called bhakti. And that's why it says in the Gita, Yogina vapi sarvesham madgatena taratmanam shradhavam bhajate yomam. So of all yogis, one who worships me with faith and devotion is the highest of all. So rag and tal, melody and rhythm, are connected with deep parts in the psyche that increase emotion. So if our absorption in the holy name, and therefore if efficacy, is our absorption in it, and that absorption is due to love or our relationship with God, then that will be enhanced. Whatever spark of devotion will be enhanced by the melody, by the tal, and therefore it in that way it's also better than instead of just chanting without the music. And here's another thing that I think that can be there in Sankirtan. You can do it with advanced Sanga. And when you do kirtan with advanced Sanga, what Sanga means is a conduit between your heart and those whom you are relating with. And especially if someone who's advanced is chanting, and what we say is Shrudnam, then Krishna is there in the name, and he's a person, but a person is only fully revealed in relationship, in love. So if you have someone like Niranjan Swami is chanting, or someone, Madhava is chanting, you can feel it, Jamuna Devi is chanting, or advanced, and they have that love for Krishna, then when they're chanting in that name, the person of Krishna, a person can just be a stranger. You can perceive him, you can touch them, but they're not fully revealed to you unless you love them. So when there's more love, and that love is pure, as opposed to professional chanting, which, why does it doesn't have the same effect. The person may be a great singer, they may have rag, they may have tal, they may have so many things. But Krishna, the name will be there, but it'll remain a stranger because there's no love. So when an advanced devotee chants and he has that deep affection and deep love, then Krishna kind of manifests in the name. And therefore, when that person chants the name, you almost get the same benefit as that person. He's revealed the name in relationship to his love. And if you're in kirtan and he chants that name is almost a more fuller manifestation of Krishna. And if you're humble and you join the community of kirtan, you can actually experience that name, which you may not be able to reproduce yourself. So what I'm saying now is what I call my creative philosophy. I've never read this anyplace, but the question has been asked to me so many times. Now the difficult thing is then why japa? If the spiritual master finds the ways and means to engage the disciple in devotional service, why don't he just say, instead of just chant your rounds, why don't you sing for 2 hours? It seems, well, I'm trying to work on that. And I've had to think about that deeply. And what I've come up with is, first of all, if something is better than something, let's say Sankirtan is better than Kirtan, it doesn't mean the other thing is not important. For example, Radha Kund is the highest, but do we just visit Radha Kund? Do we go to Govardhan? Or do we go to Nandagram? Do we go to Barsana? And it's not that we feel that you have to choose one or the other, but they each have different elements that may be unique to that aspect. There's a sweetness in Barsana that's incredible. And Govardhan, the concept of God as his devotee and the mercy. So in that way, you just it's not that Kirtan is better than japa. In one sense, it has these aspects of shared bliss, of group petition, of melody and rhythm, and advanced Sanga that you can take advantage of. But there's also some things in japa that are extremely important. And these are some of the things that I think are really important. I think there's in japa, there's an element of classic meditation that controls the mind in a way that becomes essential to actually realize nam, rup, guna, lila. In other words, it's controlling the mind. It's classic meditation where you really have to deal with the mind and mold, and by that real focus, mold the mind to a higher level of perception and contentment. which is actually invaluable in developing Krishna consciousness, invaluable in coming to a level of actually being able to think of Krishna and think of Krishna's pastimes. So I think japa has that aspect. I think also it's more independent. Although it's great to have advanced Sanga, it's great to have music, but that's not always available, especially early in the morning. So japa is something you can do at any time, at any place. It's more readily accessible. Just like today, my plan in Mayapur, for the first time in my life, I got into long walks because I find it just so essential to my bhajan, my focus, my chanting, which has become my main service. So after breakfast, I walk to the Tarampar Road, I walk to the Ganga, I walk around on that side, and then I come down past the Goshala, I take darshan of the deities, I come back. So it's so easy and so nice to chant japa at that time. So it's independent. I was just reading something in another section today of the Bṛhad-bhāgavatāmṛta in the beginning, like that. And I think the other aspect is there's something about a group with Krishna, like the Ras Leela, and there's something about an individual relationship with Krishna that you develop in terms of chanting the name. So it also has unique aspects that are essential to our spiritual life. So that's something that I'm working on. This is the first time I said it. So any feedback will also be great, because I've never seen anybody answer this question before. I've never seen it written before. Now, let's get to our Bṛhad-bhāgavatāmṛta. And the section we're at, which Sanatana Goswami has he has this mission. And it's such an incredible mission because technically speaking, it's not only explaining something that almost Krishna doesn't understand. Krishna, to understand the love of him, he has to take the position of his own devotee. So there's this kind of achintya beta beta tattva, simultaneously one and different, that Krishna himself, naparayam, I cannot repay you. It's just beyond me. The fathom of your love is so powerful. It's greater than my own. So I don't have experience about that. And if I don't have experience about that, I can't actually spread it. And I want to spread love of Godhead. And therefore, when Krishna comes to spread not love of Godhead, but to spread spontaneous love of Godhead, raganuga bhakti, where there's not the sense of the things that technically make love weaker, but not in a bad way, in just another flavor, is reverence, obligation, fear, and distance, which somehow are natural devotional elements when you are in relationship with someone who is superior. Like if you have a really good father, a father that you respect, then there's some distance, which is so sweet. You don't want a father who's a friend. I mean, you want a father as a friend, but you also want a father who is worthy of respect. So there also may be a little fear of disappointing that person, which is also part of that reverential love. There must be an obligation or duty to it. So it's all beautiful, but it's not as forceful as when God does not appear in his majesty, and the force of the love in friendship or romance or parental love, there's no fear in your approach. There's no obligation in your approach. There's no distance in your approach. There's no obligation in your approach. So that forceful love, somehow in our beautiful theology, in that forceful love, that's what Krishna wanted to give. But we know that he wasn't successful in this wonderful transcendental. He was successful because he's eternally Lord Chaitanya. But in that realm, there's sequential activity, almost historical activity, but it's eternal because it's not subjugated by time. So it's always happening. So you can approach it from both perspectives. There's a first time that Krishna met Radharani, but there's also never a time where Krishna doesn't know Radharani. There's a time where God becomes his own devotee, but there's never a time where God is not experiencing that. So there's a sense that he fails because he can't give what he doesn't have, so he has to become his devotee. So this love, and what to speak of Radha's love, the parama antim dasha, the end to supreme love. And this is what Sanatana Goswami has to give. And when you get a service, you get the ability to carry it out, and it manifests in terms of this story of Narada Muni looking for the topmost recipient of Krishna's mercy, which is the gopis, which is specifically what Lord Chaitanya came to give, which is specifically what the Bhagavatam is meant to give, which is specifically what Sanatana Goswami is meant to give to the world. So in this progression, we just went from Prahlad, who's remembering Krishna and very exalted in devotion, who points to Hanuman, who also has the element of service. And now what happens is Hanuman, in his humility, when he's approached by Narada as the topmost recipient of Krishna's mercy, what Narada does, what Hanuman does is he points to the Pandavas because they seem to have greater intimacy. There's an element of friendship, like Arjuna. It's a little reverential at times too, but it's not Bṛhad friendship, but still it's more forceful, it's more intimate. And it doesn't have these kind of obligation, duties, fear, distance to such an extent that the Pandavas, sometimes Krishna becomes their servant and their water carrier and so it's a very, very beautiful thing. And Hanuman is appreciating this, and he's telling Narada. And he's telling the familiar aspect that one could have with God, that Arjuna, Krishna gives him his sister, which is the internal potency. And then the Lord agrees to drive his chariot. So this is Hanuman, and he's it's very attractive, which is why we're so fortunate that we're getting to contact with Braja Bhakti. We're so fortunate that we're getting this Braja Bhakti because Maduram Vadanam Madurari Patir Maduram Navanirada Nindita Kanti Param Rasa Sagara Nagara Bhupa Param Shubhavanki Macharu Sikanda Sikam Braja Krishna Nidim Braja Raja Sutam. We get this sweetness and this intimacy. It's very attractive. So Hanuman is hearing about this. He has this relationship of servant. And he's immersed in that wonderful bhav. But he's hearing now about this more familiar relationship. Prabhu priya tamanam tu prasadam paramam vina nasiddhyati priya seva dasanam nafalatyapi. Without the unconditional mercy of the Lord's most beloved friends, a devotee's loving service can never succeed or bear fruit. Priya taman, uttama means tama, like uttama, the topmost. Priya, vina, prasadam vina, without that prasadam, nasiddhyate. Your priya seva, without the unconditional mercy of dasanam, the devotees, nasiddhyati, nafalati, you do not become siddhyati, successful. Nafalati, it does not bear fruit. Everything is this. To get the Sanga of advanced Vaishnavas. It's everything. Commentary. By now, so what Hanuman's thinking now, well, wow, I have to go and get this Sanga. Commentary. By now, Hanuman's ecstasy in unalloyed prema has awakened to such an extent that he feels stirred to go see the Pandavas at once. And he is about to propose to Narada just that. One could never become a recognized servant of the Lord. In other words, one can never enter the rasa of dasya without the blessings of perfected devotees like the Pandavas. Even if one externally makes a show of such service, one will not reap the fruits of satisfying Krishna and enjoying transcendental ecstasy. Pure devotional service proceeds completely under the authority of the Lord's beloved devotees. The first principle is Guru Pad Ashaya of the 64 principles. Tad Vigyan Artan, so Guru Eva Bhagache. It's necessary. It's necessary to take shelter of devotees. And that's our internal prayer. Mahatsevam Dwaram Ahur Vibhuktes. The service of the devotees, it opens the door to liberation. Sarva Lavamatra Sadhu Sanga Sarva Siddhi Hoy. What is it? So anyway, this is just another theme if we understand as a summary of the Bhagavatam, another theme is serving devotees, especially dadati pritagrinati guyam adyachi pritchati punkte bojyate chaiva. Taking prasad, giving gifts, accepting gifts, inquiring in confidence, learning, revealing your heart in confidence. These 6 loving exchanges, but when they're done with the sadhus, it creates that conduit to their hearts. And I always quote Voltaire, that which you appreciate comes to you. In the Bhagavatam, there's that verse, Tasmad, it comes to the conclusion, you should chant here, remember Krishna always. That's the conclusion. That's what we have to move towards. And so in the Bhagavatam, it says, the question rises, and when Sukadeva is explaining, or Sutta Goswami is explaining this, when you explain something, you have to have a sense of how the people understand it and what questions they will arise that raise their doubts in terms of what you're saying. That's just common communication. So when you say, therefore you should chant, remember, and hear Krishna always, you can say, well, if that's the process, forget about me. I'm not at that level. So the next verse comes, Sushrushro Shradadhanasya Vasudeva Katarachi Satmahat Sevana Vipra Punya Tirthan. That to serve the great devotees, great service is done. Sushrushro Shradadhanasya Vasudeva Kataras. And from that comes that type of affinity. Sadhu Sanga, Sarva Shastri Hoy, Lava Matra, Sadhu Sanga, Sarva Siddhi Hoy. So Hanuman, yes, I'm enthusiastic. And it means we should also be enthusiastic. Tasmad Bhagavata Shrishta Prabhu Priyatamo Chitam Tatvano Gamanam Te Sham Darshanasayane Tata. Therefore, O best of Vaishnavas, most dear devotee of the Lord, Hanuman talking to Narada, let us go together to see the Pandavas and take shelter of them. Commentary. Hanuman's words indicate that he considers Narada as blessed as the Pandavas, receiving Lord Krishna's favor. Since both Hanuman and Narada are servants in the Dasya mood, it is entirely fitting for them to visit the Pandavas at their residence and even stay with them to learn about devotional service. Apart from being fit to see the Pandavas, Hanuman and Narada should be able to receive from them special mercy by rendering such services as standing guard for them at night. What service does, when you serve someone, it's an expression of your love and respect for them. And that's what attracts mercy. Because Krishna and the devotees are responsive, as Prabhupada said. They're persons, so they respond in love. And giving that mercy to a receptacle of mercy. That kirtan is roaring. Ayodhyayam tadanim tu Prabhu na vishkritam nayat maturaika pradeshe tad dvarakayam pradarshitam paramaishvarya madhurya vai chitram vrindasho duna Brahma-rudradi dustakyam bhakta bhakti vivardanam. Never in Ayodhya did the Lord disclose what he now reveals in the district of Mathura known as Dwaraka, countless varieties of supreme opulence and sweetness one after another, which Brahma, Rudra, and other devotees can hardly fathom. These glories expand. These devotees expand the love of his devotees. These glories expand the love of his devotees. So the Aishwarya, this opulence, but it's not just opulence, it's Parama Aishwarya. And it's so sweet. This Aishwarya in Braj, it's just not prominent. It's just like when you love someone, the opulence, maybe not even noticed, actually. So never before, not even at Ayodhya, did he, because in Ayodhya, there's some sense of, there's more of a sense of reverence. Of course, there's some reverence also in Dwarka, but it's still more intimate. And here they're saying Mathura, the greater area touches in Dwarka also. He's talking about the Pandavas. They have a certain sweetness and intimacy and varieties of love. Krishna Ram doesn't drive the chariot of Hanuman or any of his servants. So there's some kind of sweetness there. Let me read one more purport. One more verse, a long purport about working Mathura. Sri Narada Uvacha Akim Uktam Ayodhyayam Iti Vaikuntato Pidam Utishto Tishta Tatpatra Gachava Satparam Sakhe. Sri Narada said, oh, what are you saying? Something unseen in Ayodhya? It's not even seen in Vaikuntha? Get up, my friend. We should go there at once. Part of bhava is enthusiasm. See devotees and see holy places. I remember one time the great Vaishnava scholar and saint, Dr. Fakir Mohan. What a wonderful Vaishnava. And just otherworldly. His life of devotion is just amazing. And I used to live in what was called Satsrup Maharaj's house. It was, in those who haven't been there, it was another part of the if you cross from the Krishna Mandir was a college, and there were no fences there. And on the other side of the college was my house. It was kind of on the wall of the college. There was a wall there, but there was a gate. I could walk directly straight across to the temple, and I could see Prabhupada's Samadhi from my room on the roof. So So one day I went outside and I saw Dr. Fakir Mohan, who lives in Bhubaneswar and Orissa, and he was looking for Bhakti Chaitanya's house where Partha Sarati Goswami was. So he said, "Where is this? Where is this?" And I said, "Okay, I'll take you." He said, "Let's go, let's go." He was so advanced and so senior, but he was so eager to see any ISKCON sannyasi. He was a Baba Bhakta. He was just eager to associate with devotees who had something of Krishna. Srila Sanatana Goswami comments that Narada is ready to go either to Dwaraka or the Pandava's capital, Hastinapur. Both are equally good destinations, with the interjection, Narada gives a voice to distress as not having seen such splendor in Yodya or Vaikuntha, and with the repeated request, Utishta, Utishta, he expresses extreme eagerness to go. So in 10 minutes, I have to give class downstairs, so we can stop now. And Jamuna Jaya, you're always very kind to get this going.
Hare Krishna Raj. Thank
Haribo.
you. Thank you for class. I loved the way you said it's not just with the mouth and the syllables, you can't create God, but through chanting you could attract. That's such a great way to say it. To be so, we were saying with this mouth and with certain syllables that you make God. I love that. I really love that distinction. And I also loved your distinction about your meditations on japa versus kirtan. I love that part about you saying that, especially in the morning, japa can be just done by yourself. You don't need to have everything else with you. It's always something that you can always do because it's your own private. So I really like that distinction a lot, Raj.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure it out. Maybe I'll come with you with better things. Thanks. Gail, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Oh, wait. I'm coming. I have to take off this headphone. One second.
Okay. We're eagerly waiting for you.
Can you hear me properly?
I can hear you.
Okay. Yeah. I was probably one on that list of millions of people who have come to you with that question about, well, why not just do kirtan, instead of japa, since that's what's absorbing our mind. But, when you were giving the argument about why japa is, what advantages japa has, your first argument sounded like kirtan actually did have the advantage. I mean, with japa, I know, quality time, with that one-on-one quality time with Krishna, that is there, But your first argument where, with that classic meditation where, you focus your mind, it seems like kirtan still has the advantage there, no?
No, I think it has some advantage in the absorption, but it kind of gives you like a crutch where japa, you don't have that. You really have to just deal with your mind and bringing it back. So I think it has an element of strengthening the mind. And again, Gail, these are the things where you ask questions for because I make them up. So you know what I'm saying? I'm trying to figure it out myself, right? But that's what I'm saying. It's not like this is an absolute thing that I read it in Shastra, but I'm trying to figure it out. And I'm figuring out for myself, that it's really so strengthening, and it's really something special when you're just absorbed in that name. And even in kirtan, in good kirtan, the rag and the tal recede. Everything's about the name. So it's just nice. You're just dealing with you and the name, and you have to get right to the essence.
Oh, but how do you say that in kirtan, the rag and the tal recede? It seems like that's what absorbs a lot of us is the rag and the tal.
Right, the rag and the tal. I'm saying I'll make it clear to you because this is not anything I read, but at least the point I made there, it should be clear so we can actually discuss it. What I'm saying in kirtan, you have the advantage of the rag and tal.
Mm-hmm.
So, but in japa, you don't. So japa really is more the classic meditation of just focusing on the object with just your will and your mind. And you don't have any other extra help. So I think it actually strengthens. In many ways, it has an advantage of like training your mind. Maybe more than kirtan does. That's what I'm trying to figure out why, because it just seems to, wouldn't that be great? Just do kirtan. But not everybody can sing, not everybody can lead, even if you're alone. So, okay.
Yeah, thank you, Maharaj. Yeah.
I knew that now my class is successful today because you had some questions of the things I made up. Okay. Anybody else like to say hello?
Hare Krishna Gumaraj, Tota Gopinath here. So great to see you in Mayapur.
Okay, yeah. Wow. I'm happy
Maharaj,
to
it's been nice hearing about Hanuman a little bit more. I've been rereading the Ramayana the last couple of weeks. So just to hear a little bit more, later in his life, things he's still doing. It's great to hear more about Hanuman.
But I never got it. I just haven't ever read the Ramayana, and I've never read the Mahabharata.
Nope.
So it's something I should do. Anybody else?
Hare Krishna Gumaraj, it's Govinda.
I'm Bṛhad. Thank you for class.
Haribo.
Haribo.
Okay.
See you.
It's anyway. I think on Sunday I'll tell the whole story about. It got that. Somehow the money. I needed money, and it's so funny. The way it happened was I was talking to someone, right? And I had this assistant who I don't even know. He just some Russian guy came to help me, and he overheard me talk. But didn't have the context. So he got worried. And then he sent the message. He sent the message to this Russian lady in New York. Come in. It gets worse. Come in. Come in.
You got it?
At 7 o'clock, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll come at 7 o'clock.
So
Okay.
you come.
Yeah. I'll be right down there. So he sent the message to this this Russian lady who was the one that was her sister were helping me and engaged him. And then she sent it to someone else. And then it even got worse than that. And then I asked someone, how did this happen? They said, well, I told Amala. So I said, oh, now I got clear. They told Amala, right? It was someone in Israel named Amala. It got so, I'm going to write about it because it gave me a lot of realizations. Okay.
Bad game of telephone.
Anyway, everything's helpful though.
Okay, great.
Okay.
I will.
Krishna Gurudev.
Who's this?
This is Jai Shri Radhe.
Hi, Bo.
I don't know if my video will work. Hare Krishna.
Hi, Bo. Hi, Bo.
Thank you so much for inspiration in japa chanting. You're always stressing this point, and it's very important for everybody to hear, for me especially. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Jai Shri Radhe. Hi, Bo. Okay, anybody else?
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Thank you very much for the class.
Oh, now your daughter sees. She's on the line.
Yeah. I told her, obviously.
Okay.
It was just fun.
Okay.
So,
actually, I can't. I have to actually go to the class now downstairs. Okay. Why don't you call?